Welcome to the Profitable Python with your host, Ben McNeill. On this episode, you will meet Mike Driscoll. Mike solves problems as an automated test engineer. He's a family man that enjoys blogging and writing about the Python programming language. Mike has his own popular blog called Mouse vs. Python, and he also contributes to Real Python. In addition, Mike has written 7 books about Python. Mike, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am super excited. When I was prepping out for this, there's just so much I want to ask you. So I'll jump into this. But before we even get going, I got to know, will the mouse ever slay the Python?
Probably not. They're more like friends than anything else.
Okay, so really they're playing. They're not battling on those images.
Yeah, for the most part.
What is the genesis of that, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I was trying to come up with a really good name for the blog, and I was talking to my brother about it, and he was like, "Well, you use a computer mouse, and you're programming in Python." And I was kind of like, "That's kind of a fun idea," so I went with it.
Yeah, that is legit. And I was also curious. So your book art is freaking fantastic. The new one, the WX Python. Where do you come up with that stuff, or does someone design that for you?
I usually hash out ideas in my head, and then I form it out to someone who can actually draw.
Okay.
So that last one, I had a general idea of what I wanted, and I actually had like 2 or 3 different cover ideas. And the first cover idea didn't pan out, and so my wife and I refined the second idea. It ended up being the cover for the WX Python book.
Yeah, that is epic. I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I liked how it turned out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good job for your artist, whoever that is. So I was wondering, how would you explain automated testing to my 95-year-old grandma?
So automated testing is, well, let's say you're not going to do it automated. You're going to do it by hand. So you would be poking buttons on your monitor or your screen. And so if I was explaining to my grandma, I would show her, this is where you touch, kind of like on your phone, like if you had an iPhone. If I want to dial your number, you touch the keypad. Well, if I want to automate that so that I can dial 1,000 numbers, I can program it to push those buttons for me 1,000 times really, really fast. So
Okay.
that's the gist of it.
Perfect. And it makes your software stronger, I guess, is the ultimate goal of that.
The goal in this case is to free up the testing department's time to do more exploratory testing, okay, as well as regression. The automated tests are kind of a regression test as well.
Okay, perfect. So for new Python programmers, should object-oriented programming be looked up exclusively, or can they pick it up as they go along?
I think you can pick it up as you go along. I started out doing a lot of login scripts, which is more functional programming. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really start using classes until I started creating the user interfaces with WX Python or tkinter. So, you can start either at either end, do the functional or do the object-oriented or do a mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a hefty dose of OOP in that WX Python book, which I thoroughly enjoyed that book. That was especially the database chapter, or there was 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So. Good stuff.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like you could make like a super awesome Microsoft Access, like without that 2 GB limitation.
Yes, you could.
I hate that limitation, but how do you think Pythonistas will need to adapt to monetize their skills in the future?
A lot of Pythonistas would need to probably look at how do you speed up your Python, or do you have to switch to a different language? I've heard lots of good things about switching to using PyPy instead of CPython, because that can give you an easy 5 to 10 times boost of your program speed if you don't depend on any libraries that aren't compatible with PyPy. There's several other packages like PyPy that you could technically use as well that might speed it up. Like Pandas, you could use Pandas and NumPy to speed up your code, or you could use Python for that matter. But if you just can't get the speed that you want, you will basically be stuck learning something else, which is fine. You do need to use the right tool for the job. But if you can stick to Python, and a lot of cases you can, I don't see why you wouldn't just do it,
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you think that'd be like the topic of another book or blog post that you would write? Or have you already
Yeah.
covered that sort of thing?
I'd like to cover more about PyPy and Python especially, but those will probably be blog posts, not a full-fledged book at this time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was kind of curious about, I had some questions about Python libraries, specifically with computer vision. Is that going to be used for good or evil in the future?
It's probably going to be used for both, frankly. I mean, you've already got lots of computer vision that's being used to identify criminals at like the TSA and airports, and we don't really know how many false positives it's creating, because right now OpenCV is optimized for white, Anglo people, and it doesn't do very good with other skin colors right now. So it's either going to get false positives, or it's not going to ever detect anyone, right? In the next couple of years probably.
Hmm. Yeah, the bias. I didn't even think about that. There's just a whole bias side in ethics, I
Yeah,
guess.
I don't know if it's bias or if it's like they don't have the right data sets. I don't know why that's happening that way right now.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty wild. What applications excite you about the future of machine learning and CV or computer vision for those folks that don't know?
For me, I'm really interested in how it can be used in the medical field,
Okay.
especially. I've read that you can use machine learning to diagnose Alzheimer's more accurately and quickly than you can with human doctors in some cases.
Wow.
You can find, I've seen some articles on using computer vision to find cancer in mammograms, and I think that looks really cool.
Hmm.
But my field is agriculture right now. That's what my industry is.
Okay.
And there's a lot of interest in using computer vision to identify plants, like crop types versus weeds, and that kind
Okay.
of thing. And then you'll know, am I growing weeds in the field when I shouldn't be? And you can do that from the cab as you're driving along on your field. And so that's like really big right now in the egg country.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Is there more like drone work that you see going on with that, or do you have any kind of like information to color in about kind of the future of agriculture?
Um, a couple of years ago, drones were really big at the farm cons, but they've
Hmm.
kind of dropped off because the acreage that a typical farm has is just too much to fly a drone over reliably. I think that's the reason.
Okay.
There are some neat drone technology for fertilizing or spraying pesticides,
Hmm.
but again, it has to go out and spray a small acreage amount and then come back and refill and then fly out. And you have the battery issues because they can only last for so many minutes. And if the field's very big, that doesn't work very well.
Mm.
Um, I have seen some neat videos from a couple of different companies, like Case, where they're creating autonomous vehicles that can go plant or do some kind of function on the field. I don't know if it's planting only or if it's planting and spraying or what, but I've seen some videos of those on YouTube, and those look really cool too.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds exciting. So can you talk about the mileage that you're getting with WX Python and Report Lab, specifically since there's so much hype that surrounds mobile and web development?
Well, in my field, we use WX Python for internal applications.
Okay.
It's mostly tooling, stuff like that. We use it for database access, database front ends for our users internally and for developers primarily.
Okay.
Report Lab, on the other hand, is for creating PDFs, and I use that at a different job because we would take in all kinds of different data formats and transform it into a PDF that could be emailed or printed and mailed, or but just stored indefinitely. And
Mm.
that one I can see being used online as well, because for a while there, even Wikipedia was using Report Lab to generate the PDF version of their website. So when you hit print to PDF on the button on Wikipedia, it would actually use Report Lab under the covers to create the page. So I think Report Lab has a ton of easy uses you can use it for on the web and even mobile probably. I
Hmm.
haven't tried it myself that way, but it's easy to use and easy to plug in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know you have a Report Lab deep dive book. Basically, I haven't had a chance to dig into that too much, but people are enjoying that. That's like a authoritative source on Report Lab, right?
Yeah, I believe it's the only book of its kind outside of the free manual that the Report Lab developers have released on their own website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how did that work exactly? I mean, if there was no resources to really, besides the docs, I guess, like how did you? That seems like a tough nut to crack.
Well, I referred to the manual quite a bit, and basically took the outline of it and fleshed it out a lot, because there's lots of missing pieces there that just where it wasn't easy to find. So I'd research on Stack Overflow and the Report Lab mailing list and my own code from the last 10 years, and just kind of piecemealed my own knowledge together with the knowledge of the universe to create this book. And it turned out really well. I thought that was like one of the easiest books to write, frankly.
Really? Okay.
It just like flowed. It was weird, but it was cool.
Yeah, I remember I saw it on, there was some sort of like a promotion, I think, where you could get like a package of books. Was that the Kickstarter one or no?
I usually do a package deal on Kickstarter to help drive sales, but I've done a couple of sales since then, just on my blog.
Right. Yeah, I remember it was like it had just expired on Kickstarter, and I saw like an old tweet, and I was like, "Dang it!" And then I think I picked it up when I got there was like a whole package that you got for like $50 or something like that. And yeah, anyway, I had to be patient to get my hands on that book.
I try to do a couple of sales a year, especially for in the fall for new people who are going into college, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I was reading that in the pre-interview. So you're really kind of philanthropic with your books as well when it goes to like students or teachers and like third world kind of nations. Is that do you have any more information to share on that? Like how people are leveraging those, or like how many books that you've given away? Do you have any information on that?
Well, I don't have concrete numbers, but a few years ago, I think it was not too long after I released the first JBX cookbook that I created, I decided to try releasing Python 101 for free on Reddit and my website for like 3 days, I think it was. And not too long, that itself generated, I think, around 40,000 downloads. And people were reading the book, and they're like, "Hey, I like this book," and so they buy my other books that were available at that time.
Yeah.
And like a month later, I decided, oh, that worked so well and got me enough sales, I'm going to try that with Python 201. And it didn't do as well, which I was kind of expected because it's intermediate level versus beginner level.
Right.
But it still generated like 20,000 downloads, which in my mind is really awesome.
Yeah, that's freaking wild.
But I have done, I think around that time too, I was experimenting with how do I reach educators? And I said on my blog, if you're an educator and you can email me from an educated, like a obviously EDU address or K-12 or whatever, I'll send you a free book. And I think I got an entire class in like Iran or something emailed me and like, we all want a copy of your book. And I got, so, it kind of goes in waves. You get 10 here and 40 there. And I need to do that again because I haven't done that in a while. But
yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, but I mean, those books, at least for the ones that I've chewed on, I mean, you kind of get to borrow like a piece of your brain for, a few hundred pages. And you've been doing this since like 2006, I think I was seeing on another podcast show. Is that correct?
I've been writing I started doing Python in 2006. I think my first blog post was like 2007 or 8.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has that been like, kind of seeing the language just, I mean, it's probably transformed. Is it even recognizable to when you first got going with it, or?
Yeah, I started on 2.4, and it's like right after I started using 2.4, 2.5 was released, and for the most part, it stayed the same. The Python 3 has added a lot of new things, especially like in the last 3 versions. I think at 3.5, 3.6, and 3.7. They've added f strings, and 3.8 has the walrus operator, and they have type hints now. And if you do all 3 of those, you can make the code look a lot weirder than it used to look. And in my opinion, it looks a little bit more cluttered and harder to follow than using what I guess I would call the old school formatting. But other people, they look at the type hints and they're like, this makes so much more sense because now I know what types they are. But I don't know. I think I'm a little old school because I'm still like Python is a dynamic typed, even if it's strongly typed language. and I liked that about it. But type hinting might be the future for it after all.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Do you think, because you've kind of seen this whole progression, is there much to really build out, or are kind of the big wins already accomplished with the language? Or do you think it's kind of seen its day and something else will form out of it?
Oh, I think Python still has some legs to go
Okay.
places. The biggest thing that it's weak in right now, in my opinion, is mobile.
Mm,
You can't create native apps with Python on mobile right now. There's two libraries, Kiwi and Toga, that do try to get around that, but Kiwi draws all their widgets themselves, so they don't look native at all.
okay.
But it has a lot more functionality built into it. Toga is newer and it's from Beware, and they have the really basic widgets, so you can make really basic looking apps, and they look right on Android and Apple iOS, but they're really limited because they're just like a handful of buttons and dials and whatnot.
Hmm. Does it make sense for the community to put energy into that, or should they just stick with like the data science dominated landscape, uh,
Mm,
web end back ends for the web?
Personally, I'd like them to spend time on mobile because
Okay.
I'd like to get into mobile with Python. Then you don't have to learn two or three other languages, because if you want to do iOS, you basically are stuck with Swift and um, what is it? Some C language I can't think of the name of. And
I
and
couldn't tell you.
Android is like Davlik and Java related stuff right now. So
Right.
if I could just choose one language and program on all of them, I'd like that.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, I could agree with you on that one. I was wondering if you could walk me through the progression of your personal brand from becoming almost entirely word of mouth. Like you started out somewhere and now it's like, yeah, entirely word of mouth. How did that work?
Well, when I started out, my blog was just me writing down articles because I was like, I don't want to forget what I'm learning right now. So I didn't know Python at first, and so I'm like, I'm just going to put everything I'm learning onto my blog.
Okay.
And it wasn't just, it was mainly for my benefit. And then people started reading it and saying, hey, I really like this. Could you write about this too? And I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. And so I would write about, basically requested topics, and
Okay.
that kind of grew my brand. And then
Hmm.
then Stack Overflow started getting popular, and I became an expert of sorts on there. I'm nowhere near the expert of some of the guys on Stack Overflow, but I'm still ranked pretty highly on there as
Hmm.
a Python guy. And that points back to my blog. And basically, as I went along, my name crops up on Stack Overflow and the Python Complang Python and several other Python forums. And then I realized when I was writing my blog, I can also get it aggregated on Planet Python. So that gives me a whole different audience. And just doing that helped to get my brand out there.
Hmm.
And recently, um, I joined Real Python as a contributor because I wanted to get editorial feedback on my writing. And I also wanted to see what are they doing that I'm not doing, because they have 10 times the audience that I have.
Hmm.
So I went and I've learned a lot from them. They've shown me a lot of good writing tricks, and I kind of understand SEO better.
Hmm.
And while I've upped my Twitter presence, it hasn't really done a lot for sales, but I think it is generating slightly more traffic to the blog. So I'm going to continue to experiment with that and see if that can make it better, or if it just stays the same. I'll have to try something new.
Hmm. And you had mentioned there like Reddit and Hacker News were kind of some other places that helped with the viral loop.
Yes, I use Google Analytics on my blog to help identify which sources are coming to my blog the most often. And Reddit and Hacker News used to be pretty high on the list.
Mhm.
Anymore, it's mostly organic search from Google. But
Okay.
um, when they were in the top 5, that's when I knew that they were helping me a lot. Like 5 years ago, that they were probably helping a lot.
Okay.
Nowadays, it's not as helpful, and it's mainly search engines that are coming to my blog, or occasionally someone popular will link to my blog from another article, and I'll get a lot of hits.
Hmm. Is it, what do you think that's from? Where you've seen the traffic die down from those, like Hacker News, for example, or Reddit? like has the community changed, or is maybe the search engine is just that not seeing that as relevant, or what do you think about that?
I don't know what's going on with Hacker News, but Reddit itself, the mods there have changed a lot, so that they are really grumpy about you posting too much on their things. So like Learn Python won't even let me post on there half the
Oh,
time,
okay.
and because they like you're promoting paid content, so you're not allowed. Versus I think it's our Python, where I can post, but if I post too much, they'll ban me. And so I don't really post there. I let other people post there, and then I comment on my own article and be like, hey, you got any questions? You can ask me right now. So I think that's why those aren't as good a venue as they used to be, is that the mods are either cracking down or they've got different mods that have their own agendas. I don't know what the deal
Okay.
is there.
Yeah, the reason that I prize so much is I'm actually just getting into this blog space, and I've also heard that it's a great way to market yourself as a software developer. It's definitely like a long game from what I
Hmm.
understand, but I'm just like infinitely curious about like your learnings from this space, and then of course the audience would hopefully receive these knowledge bombs as well.
Yeah, well, I do know that at least Learn Python, the mods have reached out to me and said that I can post there to some degree. I just have to be careful with how I word things so that I don't get auto ban, what is it called? Auto deleted by the auto mod.
Okay.
Because if I say uh, here's my new book, it's for sale for 50% off, those will get binned immediately. Whereas if I comment on someone else's article and say, hey, my book is for sale right now, though my comments won't get binned, they will stay. So I just have to be careful how I post to their site, I guess.
Okay,
It's
crazy.
weird.
Yeah, and there's probably no like Reddit instruction manual or like you wouldn't know unless you were like in the trenches, right?
Yeah, I mean, Reddit itself says go ahead and post your own content. That's in the
Okay.
guide. And I'm like, that's why I thought it was okay. And now you find out that subreddits have their own special rules, and you better not violate them because they're unwritten.
Yeah. That's wild. I mean, it sounds like there's a huge incentive to kind of do what you're doing, even though it is kind of a longer game, have your own blog and just kind of try all these different ways to drive traffic to it. Like what we've discussed here. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've got my blog set up to auto post to Twitter, and I think that helps a little bit. I
Okay.
had it auto posting to Google Plus when that was a thing. Google Plus didn't really drive much of anything, so it was kind of a waste of time. But it was automatic, so I didn't care.
Right.
I have a post to LinkedIn and Facebook as well. I think the Facebook integration broke, and I whether you don't get that much traffic from Facebook anyway, which is weird because they have several billion users.
Yeah.
But they must not really read about Python that much on there.
Either that or they want you to pay to play.
But yeah, or that, or maybe their traffic is masked in some way, so I can't tell it's coming from them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, what do you think about LinkedIn since we're on the subject? Is that like a good platform for, I mean, I know it's like a place where I wouldn't want to like, say things that my boss might get mad at or something. Like they have
Hmm.
that kind of level of standard, but as far as like building a brand and that sort of thing, like I mean, what are like the best outlets in your opinion?
I still like using Hacker News and LinkedIn because I think they do have an audience that way,
Okay.
and Twitter too. Those are probably the big three for me. Um, I have played around. What's the other one called? I have played around with someone with shoot. I think Planet Python would probably be the other big one for me. You have to find aggregators that will promote your content kind of passively but freely, unless
Okay.
you have the money to burn, of course. But from my research, I think I've read that you don't want to spend more than like 5% of your gross on online advertising, because you won't make your money back. Something
Okay.
like that. And what little I've tried of online advertising, it usually doesn't give me a whole lot. So I haven't done it that too often.
Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms, I guess.
Yeah.
So, what are the benefits and drawbacks, I guess, you've found to self-publishing? Because I mean, that's the only way that you go, right?
That's the way I've chosen to go now. I have
Okay.
tried publishing. I have a book out with Pact Publishing and
Right.
another book with A Press. Um, I like self-publishing for several reasons, and I actually wrote a blog post on this subject earlier this year. So
Okay.
if people want to go check that out, there's a lot more details than I can probably get into here in this venue.
Hmm.
But regardless, so the reasons I like to self-publish is I get to determine when the deadlines are, when it's released, who gets free copies. If the book is free at the end, which is Python 101 is free, you can read it online, you can download a PDF, or you can give me some money. I don't care. It's free for everyone right now.
Hmm.
And the original version of it will continue to be that way. And I just like having that power to say, this book is free for you. And if you have a good reason for wanting a free book, I'll give you a free book. And I also like the ability to say, oh, I found a bug. I can push a button and have the bug fixed in 20 minutes and pushed
Mm.
out to all of my readers, and they can read the updated version of the book. You can't do that with Apress or Pact or O'Reilly or whatever.
Hmm.
As much as I'd like to be able to do that, you have to jump through all these hoops and release a second edition, and that could be a year or two later after you've got all the edits in.
Okay.
So
Wow. Yeah, uh, that's fantastic to share. I hadn't considered any of that, and I'll probably go check out that blog. How do you choose your book topics? Because you have very unique selection.
so when I originally wanted to start writing a book, people as in my readers were telling me you should write about WX Python because you have all these articles about it, and
Okay.
there aren't any current books on it. And I was like, yeah, I should. That'd be fun. But I don't want to write an intro to Python set of chapters for my WX Python book because that's what everyone else does, and I think it sucks to read 30, 30% to 50% of your book is intro to Python, and then the rest of it is the actual topic of the book. And that's how a lot of Python books were back 5 years ago or so. So I said, I'm going to write a beginner's book, and then I'll either bundle it up with the WX Python book, or I'll make it free. And so that's what I ended up doing. So when people say, hey, I need to know Python before I can read your book, I can say, well, go get the other one. It's free. Go get it, read it. Then you come back and read my other book. Anyway, I've done WX Python now for over 10 years, I think almost 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have a deep understanding and love for that particular GUI toolkit.
Yeah.
So I just like to write about it. Report Lab is kind of the same way. I had to learn that on my first job with Python.
Mm-hmm.
So I've struggled with Report Lab for a long time, and really, it's been a lot better to work with than WX Python. But there's just not very much documentation. And I was like, there still isn't that much documentation. This might be a niche that makes sense. So I decided to write a book on that topic and be the only one for now. And I guess I still am, because every time I look on Amazon, no one else has written anything about it.
Yeah.
I have ideas for other books that I'd like to write on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What do you have anything cooking right now, or that you're at liberty to share, I guess?
I am working on, I don't know, I don't have a release dates or even order figured out yet, but I am working on a big update to Python 101, practically a rewrite, because I've noticed that there's a bunch of new things that have come out since 3.5. Like I mentioned, type hints.
Mm-hmm.
F-strings, I think, came out fairly recently, and they're not covered in there.
Mm-hmm.
The way you package up executables is way different nowadays. And if you want to package for PyPI, I mean, the Python packaging index,
Mm-hmm.
what I have in Python 101 is no longer correct.
Okay.
You're not supposed to use Python setup.py anymore. You're supposed to use like Twit or some other utility that I'm not actually familiar with right now. And so there's like whole chapters that you're going to have to axe or rewrite. And I don't like having a book out there with a bunch of stale information. So I'm going to rewrite that book probably either late this year or early next year. And then I've got one on mobile that I've been sitting on for a while, waiting for Toga or Kiwi to mature. And they either mature or I'm just going to write the book. I'm not sure which, but
That's awesome. Do you ever consider like finding a partner in crime, or will it always be a Mike Driscoll show with your books, you think?
I haven't really thought about getting a co-author. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that, but I don't know I don't know how well our styles would mesh, and I definitely don't want to work with a publisher again unless they were like really good terms.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what would you look for in like a software writer, like not a publisher, but somebody that was just as passionate about Python as you? Like, what would you look for in that person, you think?
Now I'd go and try to find their online presence and see if what their writing is like to see if it would match up well with mine.
Hmm.
I'd have to kind of feel them out and talk to them about, what is your vision for this, for, topic X? How would we split it up? Um, will our personalities mesh? Can we actually commit to things and get them done at the commitment date? That's probably one of the big ones. So, um, like Mike Kennedy, he does the Talk Python podcast. I
Hmm.
would probably be open to doing one with him because I know he gets stuff out on a deadline on a regular basis, and he's a trainer. So
Yeah,
working with him would be cool.
sure.
There's a bunch of packed authors that are good, and there's a bunch of packed authors that aren't so good, and
True
it's really
that.
hard to know, which one do you go with? You have to do a lot of research to figure that out.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Man, I did a podcast with Mike Kennedy a few shows ago, and I just thoroughly enjoyed that. And I believe you were on a show like episode 150 and something, and 150. I was doing my research, and I know it was in the 150s, but
Hmm.
I mean, just you folks are like amazing humans. Like that's why I love doing podcasting. I don't know how else I'd get on your calendar, for example, Mike. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is what I this is what I love about doing podcasts. I just get to meet cool people like you. So
Yeah, I'm always open to chat with someone as long as it doesn't take up too much time.
true that, man. No, I can respect that. So, what is another programming language that you would like to write a book on?
I'm pretty curious about Rust right now because I
Okay.
see I see a lot of Python core developers talking about it and how cool it is.
Hmm.
My boss really likes Swift, so that one is a little bit interesting to me too, except that it only basically runs on Mac.
Hmm.
So I'm a little bit less interested in that just because you'd only have an audience of Mac users versus, Mac, Linux, and Windows.
Right.
But I think Rust looks really interesting because it's cross-platform and it's kind of like C, but with a Python syntax, and that interests me.
Hmm. Yeah, heck yeah. I have not dug into that too much, but I have a friend who he keeps sending me articles and stuff. He's like, "You got to check this out. They're going to start making browsers with it." And so, do you think we'll see Python in a browser, or is that just ridiculousness?
Um, I saw something earlier this year from Mozilla where they were doing some experiments with Python in the browser. I don't remember now what that's called. And 8 years ago, there was a big talk about putting Python in the browser with that Microsoft technology that they have. What is that called? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. There's a plugin that they added to. You could run Python in the browser because it was part of the .NET framework at that time through
Okay.
Iron Python. And there's some neat
Mhm.
demos at PyCon, and it looked really cool. I was like, sweet, Python's coming to the internet. But nowadays you can do Python online. You can do it with Django and
Mhm.
Flask, and you can do it with Jupyter Notebook and Binder.
Right.
So there are venues for doing Python in the browser at least. It's
Hmm.
just not. I don't think it's ever going to be as cool as JavaScript.
Okay.
Although that there is that one neat tool. What is it called? Ansible or no? So there's a neat online tool where you can write Python write the whole web page in Python. I
Hmm.
don't remember now what it's called, but I keep seeing articles about that, and that looks really cool.
So, like, it generates. It's like object oriented, like H tags and stuff. Like somehow you would.
On the tip of my tongue, trying to think what that guy's name is. It was a name I can't pronounce, but uh, anyway, he's been at PyCon lately too, and he has a product where you can create websites in pure Python. He's got a neat demo, and I think there's a free tier, so you can actually try it out. His product. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. I'll send you a link later.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. I'm always curious about stuff like that. So I was curious, kind of some more blog type questions here for you. In what ways has blogging enhanced your human experience?
Well, it's always a good conversation starter. You tell someone you're a blogger, and either they'll be like really interested, or they'll be like, "What the heck is that?" And that helps with the conversation, because now I can talk about what blogging is and why I like it and what I do for fun. So in the human experience, you get to use it. It's really good for your resume. I think that's half the reason I get interviews is I have my blog on my resume and I have some books on my resume, and people want to talk about that and that just because that's on there.
Mm-hmm.
But you get a lot of. The other thing I like about the blog is I get a lot of emails from students, companies, anything from middle schoolers to NASA engineers. I'll get crazy emails about how do you do this in Python? How do you do that in Python? Can I have a free book? And I'm like, yes, no, whatever.
Right.
You know.
So you have unlimited topics basically at this point in the game. There's no shortage of suggestions and whatnot.
Not really, no.
That's a pretty awesome situation to be in.
Yeah, I like it. That's one of the reasons I like Python is it can do pretty much anything in any field, and it does it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Good enough, anyway.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Do you have any advice for someone that's looking to create a Python user group? I was looking at something that you had written about that, how you started one actually.
Oh, like a meetup?
Yeah, I think was it in Ohio?
It's in Iowa.
Iowa, sorry, yeah.
Yep. So the Python Software Foundation has a lot better support for this now. They have their own mailing list that basically is kind of a meta user group to help other people figure out how to onboard people.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I did when I started my group is I was like, I knew a couple people here and a couple people there, and I said, hey, let's get together and talk about Python. And at that time, I worked for the county, so it was easy getting access to a building that would allow us to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned, people like free food. So sometimes once we figured out we could have sponsors for PyOI, which we did when we moved to Des Moines,
Mm-hmm.
that helped a lot because now we have corporate sponsors, for mostly recruiters, who, will provide pizza or whatever. And that helps bring people in. They also provide places for us to meet. And the Python Software Foundation will also, I believe this is still true, they will pay, or not sure, I shouldn't say pay, they will reimburse you for like a meetup type website subscription for your group. So if you want to set up, I think it's Meetup or something like Meetup, you set up the subscription, everyone can join, and that fee can just be offloaded to the PSF as, or you can just absorb it yourself. It's not that much. But that's one way to help figure out who's coming, when they're coming, that kind of thing. Because it does help to have an idea of how many people are coming for food purposes, if nothing else.
What did you, well, first of all, do you think that would work in a environment where maybe the city wasn't as big as the city that you started in? Like I live in a city with like 100,000 people. On the weekends, it swells to 100,000. Like, would that work at all, you think?
Yeah. I mean, when I started out, I was in a pretty small area, and I think we had the town, we bounced between a place called Marshalltown and a place called Ames. And Ames is like 25,000 on a good day. So, I don't think that's a problem at all. You can usually find at least 10 like-minded people to show up and talk about Python. And it's usually a nice carousel of 10 people. You'll get a core 5 to 10 people, and then another 5 to 10 random people who just show up once a month or once a year, and depending on the topic. And I think if you have it in a bigger city, you're going to get better attendance in general, just because you can have that much more to pull. But I did like moving our location because it did bring in different people from Ames is like 30 minutes or 45 minutes from Marshalltown. So you got a different group of people depending on where the location was held.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Did you guys have speakers and stuff, or was it, what was kind of the format of your get down?
Originally it was pretty ad hoc. I would speak, or my boss would speak, or someone from the audience, kind of a lightning talk format. And it really wasn't too hard to get people to commit to come and give small presentations. So I eventually, we get a lineup maybe a month in advance, and we usually had someone there to talk about something. And currently the group is run by another guy that I handed it off to, and he does a pretty good job of, getting new people to come in and talk, or he'll talk about a topic in Python. And, most of the time we just have a short presentation that's half an hour, 45 minutes. And then, you can chit chat after or chit chat before, or you can just leave. But, we've also done some more like workshop type topics. We'll get there and we'll work on something together as a group, mob
Okay.
programming style.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I hope that inspires somebody to try it out in their own city. So
Oh yeah, you can do it all kinds of different ways.
yeah, that I'm gonna have to re-listen to this part because I think there's a lot of good information there. What did you, or why did you choose to be like a blogger over distributing your content on other platforms? Because there's so many ways you can distribute content.
For me, I wanted complete control of my content.
Okay.
I have thought about posting some posts to Medium, but they take control of your content in a fashion, and I don't really like that. I know
Okay.
I know other people that are very popular in the Python sphere that do post to Medium from time to time, or even as their main platform. But I don't like having some company that I don't know what they're going to do with my data, controlling it in that way. So for me, it's more about I can list it however I want, and that does bring up the what do you do when someone steals your content problem. But for the most part, I don't worry about it too much.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. What is your process for writing a blog?
So my process is, or I used to be, people would email me ideas, and I'd be like, "This is a really cool idea," or "This is a dumb idea," or I already wrote this article, and I said send them a link back.
Right.
But a lot of the time, I'd take that idea and I'd make a note of it and create a new blog post, and it would just stay in my drafts until I got to it. And I probably have a lot. I know I have probably 100 drafts that I need to just go through and either delete because the library doesn't exist anymore, or I need to rethink it because it's changed so much. But the first thing is, this library looks cool. Do I want to spend the time learning it so I can write an intelligent post? If I do, I go ahead and write the post. In other cases, my workflow is, man, I just learned something awesome at work. Now I need to take that information and distill what I learned in a way that doesn't, cause any problems with my NDAs.
Right.
And write something so that I don't forget this information for the next time I'm going to need it in the future. And that drove a lot of content on my blog, because I was like, man, this content isn't out there. I had to figure it out on my own, and I know I'm probably going to need it again in 6 months or a year, and that's turned out to be true, time and time again. So that's usually my big thing is, well, I need it in the future. Write a blog post. Is this something that no one else has written on? That might be worth a blog post and maybe a book, right? Keep writing it. The other thing that makes me think, is this a book worthy? Do I get a lot of hits on this for a long period of time? Like that was one thing that brought up the report lab. I had the report lab articles stayed in my top 10 for a long time, like over a year. So I knew that content was valuable to my readers and might be worthwhile pursuing as a book.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. How long did it take for your blog to get traction?
That depends on how you define traction, I guess. I thought it was awesome when I was getting a couple hundred users a month, which is how it was probably for the first couple of years. Really, I didn't really pay attention. I didn't have analytics hooked up, so I don't really know what caused it. But I will say, around 6 or 7 years ago, I had changed jobs, and I wasn't posting to it very much anymore because I was learning things on my job. And I happened to glance at the analytics and was like, wow, I haven't posted in probably 2 months, but my readership is the same or has grown anyway. And I'm like, that's really encouraging. I'm going to start writing more. And so at that point, I think I was getting, I don't know, 60, 70,000 viewers, readers a month. And now, I'm over, I don't know what my official number is. It's like 120,000, 130,000 per month.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And yeah, it's really cool. I'm like, this is sweet. And I have learned It's different times of the week you'll get better hits. So, if you post on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are probably the key days to post. You get the most hits. Weekends suck. You don't get any hits, basically. It's like half what you get during the week.
Okay.
Thursdays can be good. If there's a big conference like PyCon, Fridays are good, but if there's not a big conference, Fridays suck too.
Okay.
So
the conferences help? Is that what I'm hearing?
It has in the past. I've had some of my best days on a Friday when it's like PyCon weekend. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that's like the only time Fridays are really good for me, unless it's like a controversial topic, Like post something like I hate PyPy or something. You'll probably get a bunch of hits or whatever. But I rarely do that because I don't like clickbaity titles myself. Yeah. But occasionally, when I post stuff like the NASA image was done with a lot of Python stuff. I think I posted that on Tuesday, but that one, it caused a big explosion. I got like 6,000 or 8,000 hits that day, which is huge for me.
Yeah.
Versus what I usually average like 4 or 5 maybe.
Mm-hmm. Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so I know one of your kind of missions going forward is to expand that audience. What is a strategy that you're going to be leveraging?
Well, this year I committed to driving up my Twitter audience to see if that would help.
Okay, perfect.
I've only been doing that a couple of months, so I don't have good data yet on whether that's helping me or not.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely helping my Twitter following. I don't know if that's a good thing yet. I'm really hoping it will be.
Yeah.
I'm going to play with Instagram a little bit and see if that helps at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right now the numbers are negligible because I haven't done very much with Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to do YouTube last year. It was encouraging. I was getting YouTube subscribers, but again, was I getting very much viewership on my blog from YouTube? I don't think so.
Oh, they were just staying on the platform type thing?
Yeah, I think they were. I don't think they were coming back.
Yeah.
Or at least the numbers are so small they didn't show up unless you page 50 or something. So
yeah.
So I haven't found the magic sauce yet, but
okay.
I'm going to keep plugging away at Twitter, and I might play with Reddit some more because I do know if you play your cards right on Reddit, you can get a huge influx of users. It doesn't usually last very long.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a flash in the pan, 2 or 3 day thing. But if I get that flash in the pan and they like the content on there, maybe they'll come back. So,
right. Yeah, and there's posts going back years, 10 years.
It's actually funny you bring that up because some of my posts from 2012 are like some of my best posts. And I'm like, what did I do different in 2012? I know I wasn't a better writer then. I was a worse writer. So why is that getting so many hits versus my new stuff from last year,
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And how does that work? Because I know you brought up something along the lines of like, you don't like having aged content out there like your Python 101 book. But I mean, once you amass 10 plus years of blogs, like you're not going to go back and, I mean, it just seems like you'll hit a critical mass where it would just become insanity.
Yes. Interestingly, most of my blog posts work still.
Okay.
That's one thing I do like about Python is stuff that I wrote for 2.5 mostly works in Python 3 or works completely fine in Python 3 minus the print statements.
Right.
The only case that's really failed me badly is some really old WX Python code that has just changed. He's had to. Robin Dunn, the creator of WX Python, has had to deprecate some things when he switched back ends, and some of that code is just doesn't work. But it mostly works. It takes a couple of little tweaks here and there, and when people point out that this article doesn't work, I just go back and fix them.
Right.
Or I say I wrote a new one, like I have a new PubSub article out for WX Python. And so I've gone back to the 2 previous versions of PubSub articles I've written and say, if you're using WX Python 2, this is the article for you. If it's 3, go to the next article. And if it's 4, go to this article, or, whatever.
Right.
So I am starting to fix that problem by saying, go to my next article. Here's a link.
Okay. Oh, just something up top saying like, there's a new version of this. Or,
yes.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Perfect. That's good advice for anyone that's going hardcore on the blogging for sure. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you have old content, you need to audit it every now and then. Make sure it's okay. And if it's not, you probably need to put a deprecation warning of some sort at the top.
Yeah, good call on that. So I wanted to talk about testing a little bit. what kind of testing advice do you have for someone writing file system deletion scripts?
Well, for me, it's write it out with in a test mode, so it just prints out what it's going to delete, not actually delete anything.
Okay.
Because you usually find out the hard way, especially with deletion scripts, that you're going to end up deleting something you didn't mean to. Much like when you run rm-rf on something you didn't mean to, it will happily delete everything in your folder. In my case, I deleted a lot of our source code, and because I wasn't testing it properly, and it targeted the wrong folder. You know, I passed in something like // instead of the actual full path I wanted to test against, and deleted. I think it tried to delete itself and couldn't. But anyway, that was bad. But fortunately, always have backups when you're playing with those kind of code.
Okay.
Backups are probably the first thing you need to have if you're going to create a deletion script. Make sure you have good backups before you run it. And besides that, learn what TDD is, test-driven development. It will help you. Version control will help you a lot too, because even with a deletion script, who cares if you delete your current version? You can just roll back really easily. Assuming your version control is actually, in the cloud.
Right.
Don't delete your Git revisions on your local system when you're stuck.
Yeah, that's good advice right there. What testing advice do you have for a small team Python dev shop, like of 2 or something like that, or is it all the same?
It's pretty similar, but when you have a team, you can all work together, and that's the best thing about having a team. I recommend pair programming. It helps a lot because you can trade who writes the test and who writes the code to pass the test, and then you can switch for the next test in there. When you have 2 brains focusing on a problem, you can both come at it from different ideas and discuss which is the best approach. The nice thing about TDD is when your code is ready to commit, because if the tests are passing, you can commit it. If it's a brand new code, you can have a decent confidence that your code is somewhat tested versus trying to test old legacy code, which is really hard to know if you have good coverage or not. There are tools that will help you. Coverage.py will help you, for example. But even that's not going to tell you 100% you have covered every single edge case you can think of, because the user will find something that coverage.py didn't think of and that you didn't think of either.
Yeah, we have some famous people in our office. They're known as like the people that break things.
Yes. Yep. We have a tester at work who is well known for being able to break anything of ours, as well as going to like a cell shop and breaking demo displays. So,
okay.
He's good at his job, and we're glad to have him. But he's a force to be working with.
Oh, that's hilarious. So is it a good thing or a bad thing to see so many internet tutorials that do not use TDD?
Beginner tutorials, I think, could benefit from TDD, but it might make it really hard for a beginner to understand what's going on. So there's a little bit of give and take. What I would like to see is a beginner tutorial written for beginners, and then a TDD version of the same tutorial written for like intermediate. This is how you can improve your code. So here's how you do it without TDD, and here's how you do it with TDD, and maybe make it a 2-parter. And that would help a lot of people see, oh, this is why TDD might be valuable and worth learning. But throwing too many acronyms at a beginner, or even a data scientist, because they're not used to using Python, for example, they'll be like, what the heck is this? And they won't read your article because it's too confusing.
I see. So have like maybe a way to toggle the tutorial or something along those lines.
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be the ideal way. I'm not sure that there's a platform that actually allows you to toggle blocks like that very well, but
okay. Yeah, cool concept though. Did you learn unit testing like trial by fire, or was there like some resources that really stood out?
Alas, I still don't get to do a lot of unit testing, but we had a TDD course that I've taken that was really good and helped open myself and my team's eyes to how awesome it is. That is unfortunately something your company would have to pay for probably, and you'd have to hire someone to do that. For Python, I do know that there is a TDD book. It's mainly focused on web developers, unfortunately. So if you're not a web developer, it might help you. It might not help you. I don't know. That is one thing that is kind of short in the Python community, is another more general TDD book. I think that would be awesome to have another one. But regardless, you can usually go out and find Python katas that you can use to help you learn TDD, or at least help you get the idea, do the kata as a TDD by following how you do a kata.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. What is your message to an organization that claims testing and stage environments are cost prohibitive?
My message would be that you don't know what you're missing out on, and you're going to lose a lot of money by not having at least a test environment and not a stage environment. Because when you are programming in production, there is a lot, you can harm a lot of users all at once with very little effort. So, I don't recommend it. I have worked for organizations that do it. So, don't be too surprised if you end up doing it, but it sucks and it will cost you at some point.
Mm-hmm. Either way, you're paying.
Yes, you're going to pay to fix it, or you're going to pay by finding out that you don't have proper backups, or, there's lots of different ways you're going to pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully it's just you're going to be paying your workers to fix it, and you're not going to be paying by, losing a lot of your income.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Yeah, thanks for that. So just kind of like winding down the interview here, I was wondering, do you have any additional advice for Python programmers to help them monetize their skills? I get this question a lot on Instagram, and I just would love to leverage your experience on this.
Monetizing is hard. You have to be really passionate about it and never give up. It's going to take a long time most of the time it's going to take a long time to get it to work. For myself, I wasn't even trying to monetize my blog until fairly recently. I think like the last 5 years, really. I've tried it, different things. But you can do it. You have to try everything under the sun to make yourself available. You have to be available to your readers. You can't just say, I don't care about you, and not help them, because then you'll get a bad reputation. So, you have to be open, but you can't be too open, because if you're always helping, you never get to create new content either. So there's a fine balance there, because you will get, I've seen some people get overwhelmed with all the people that are saying, please help me, please help me, please help me. And, that can take away from your full-time job, not let alone your hobby that you're trying to turn into a job.
Right.
So, balance your work and your time and your fun. But if you're really serious about it, you're going to have to work hard at it too.
I love it. What is your favorite summer activity to do with your family?
I really like going outside and enjoying the fresh air, walking around. I'm really into photography, so if I can take photos of my family, that's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We recently went into northern Minnesota, and I got to take photos of hummingbirds, which is something I've never done before.
Okay.
And that was fun, very challenging, because they're very fast. So, I just enjoy being with my family and doing fun things with them.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's awesome. May I ask, what is the best advice you have ever received?
The best advice would probably be, and I don't know that I've received it from one person. It's more of something I've learned. Mm-hmm. It's, put your family first, because they're the ones who are going to be there for you at the end of the day. And put yourself. This one's kind of tricky. Do you put yourself first, or do you put your family first? I put my family first, and I put myself next, and then I put my work, and then my hobby. Because writing right now is my hobby. It can't provide for me financially right now, but I hope it will at some point. So you keep those things in mind. Your family matters the most. You definitely take care of yourself, or you're not going to be able to take care of your family. Right. And you also need to take care of your work for now, because that will help pay you and take care of your family.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm. What is the best non-technical book you have ever read?
Ooh, non-technical.
That thing they call leisure, I think.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of that anymore. Ooh, There's lots of books. I like reading Michael Crichton books, for example.
Sweet.
Jurassic Park I really enjoyed for a long time. It's relaxing and scary and fun all at the same time. I've enjoyed a lot of Grisham books. He's a lawyer, author.
Okay.
A lot of his books are fun. Good way to wind down. If you like manga, I like One Punch Man.
Okay.
That's a fun manga. Not super gory. Has a simple plot for the most part. Good stuff.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I've never heard. What is it? What was that last one?
One Punch Man.
One Punch Man. Okay, that's probably gonna be the first thing I check out after this.
Go for it. It's fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So, what is the best video game ever made?
Ooh, I think the one I played the most when I was into video games was Twisted Metal.
Okay.
It was a PlayStation game.
Yeah. That was like battle cars, basically.
Yes,
right?
It was a battle car game. I got a ton of hours because it was a co-op game that you could split 2 players. I think, or I think you're doing 4 players on a screen. And if you have friends over, that was a blast. That was so much fun.
Yeah, heck yeah, Twisted Metal. That's awesome.
It's old school. A lot of people like GoldenEye, and I think GoldenEye is a lot of fun too. But
yeah,
I had a PlayStation. I didn't have a Nintendo 64, so I went with something else.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. I had one last question for you, and I was wondering, what are some programming languages that people should check out? Maybe like the top 3 or something like that.
Just from my own looking at jobs, you're going to want to learn JavaScript because it's everywhere. There's no getting around that. I recommend Python as a general purpose language because you can use it for pretty much anything. You can use it, and it's not just a glue language. It can be used for GUIs, data science. You can use it in embedded programming even, and it's really amazing. And then you should probably learn C or C++ if you're serious about learning programming because so many other programming languages are based on them. So they're not fun, but you will learn a lot about even Python. Even Python itself is based on C. So you're going to learn a lot about the underpinnings of other languages just by reading up on it, even if you never get good at it.
Alrighty. Well, that is certainly a scary beast. I wasn't wanting to maybe look into that myself, but I think I rented a C++ book from the library one time, and I was like, holy cow. But maybe it's time to revisit it. I don't know.
It's painful, and I will frankly admit I'm not very good at it, but it does help to learn a little bit of it.
Cool. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me on the show here. It's been an honor to chat with you about all things Python. Where can people find more about you?
You can check out my Twitter account at Driscollus. It's Driscoll with an IS on the end. Or you can just look up mouseversuspython.com. That'll take you to my blog where you can find out what I've written about recently. Like yesterday, I had a PyDev of the Week. It comes out every Monday. Where I interview different people in the Python community. And then, of course, I have all my books are listed on my blog as well. Okay, perfect. And by the end of the show, I'm going to be blowing up your Instagram. So keep an eye out there. There's like a crazy Python following on there. So I'll be sending some traffic your way. But yeah, excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. And I wish you the best of luck with growing your audience or exploding your audience. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Well, thank you.